This book is called A Show of Hands, and in our book room, it is a level 20. Don't forget while you're reading to use our cross-checking strategy. Does it look right? Does it sound right? Does it make sense? In this story, you can also use the text features that we've learned about. And here we have the table of contents. You can find this information on these pages. A show of hands. Have you ever gone to see a play? If so, you most likely had no trouble hearing the performers speak or sing. What would watching a play be like if you couldn't hear? Maybe not as different as you think. Oh, I see that punctuation mark there, and that means I'm going to show some expression. In this book, you will read about some performers who speak with their hands. What do you think the author wants to tell you in this book? Think about it. Why sign language? Have you ever seen people using hand movements to speak to each other? Most likely, those people are deaf or hearing impaired, not able to hear well. Here's a sign for happy. Here's a sign for meet. The hand movements may be signs in American Sign Language, or ASL. There are many sign languages around the world. ASL is one of them. It is the language used by most people who are deaf in the United States. What words are important on these pages? And how will you decide that? So, look at the words in bold. I want you to find a bold word in here and tell someone at home what it means. ASL also has an alphabet. Can you imagine trying to spell out every word you say? It would take forever. That's why ASL uses hand movements too. What is important to remember about what you've read so far? Here is the alphabet in sign language. When you were a baby, your parents might have showed you the sign for more, and you may have communicated with them in that way before you could talk. The National Theater of the Deaf. The National Theater of the Deaf has performed all over the world. The plays are enjoyed by audiences who are deaf and who are able to hear. What do you think the author wants you to know? Here on this page, take a look at this picture, and what do you think the author wants you to know? Actors who are deaf and hearing actors perform together. They use both sign and spoken language. Some shows have signing and dancing. Many famous hearing actors have performed with the National Theater of the Deaf, and some of the theater's actors who are deaf have become famous. Especially for kids. The Little Theater of the Deaf does plays in both ASL and spoken English. They perform for children and their families. It's fun to perform for children. A group of hearing high school students near Boston learned ASL. They bring their plays to children who are deaf and children who are able to hear. What experiences have you had that help you understand what you're reading? Many theaters use interpreters, that's a big word, for plays that are only spoken. Interpreters translate the words and songs into ASL for audience members who are deaf. You have read some interesting things about people who are deaf, their sign language, and some special performers. There are about 20 million people who are deaf and hearing impaired in the United States. So, look around you. You're likely to see a show of hands. What is important to remember about what you've read? So think about these two pages here, what we just read, and think about what an interpreter is and what an interpreter does. Tell that to the person you're reading to right now. Here are some questions to ask yourself. What did the author tell you? Who? Theater groups such as National Theater of the Deaf, Little Theater of the Deaf, and others are what you learned about here. What? Performances in spoken English and signed languages and interpreted performances. Where? All over the world. Why? So audiences who are deaf, hearing impaired, and hearing can enjoy shows. After reading the book, what are the most important ideas you should remember?